Hey guys, welcome to Tech Review. So today's a pretty exciting day as we're actually going to be able to take a look at a Windows 11 Insider Preview. Microsoft made the Windows 11 Insider Preview available today, and this is version 22,000.51. So this is the first Windows 11 Insider Preview build that's actually available to be installed right now, as long as you've been a part of Windows Insider before June 24th. So obviously you can see that there is the new start menu, and for the most part the start menu looks pretty similar to kind of what we had seen in the leaked version of Windows 11. So it does look for the most part very similar. One thing that I found really interesting is down on the bottom, if you remember in Windows 10 on the side, right beside the power button, you used to have just a few extra toggles for like settings or like maybe files. So you can actually add those and disable those depending on if you'd like. So by default, they don't come there by like default. So you actually do have to go into settings. You have to go to personalization, start, and then folders. Now obviously you can also see the new settings, but we'll take a look at that later. Continuing on, there's also another new thing that's been added that wasn't actually in the leaked version of Windows 11. And it's kind of when you hover over the search and also kind of the desktops, the virtual desktops menu, it'll open up like a mini version. So it does it for both of them. And honestly, I think I prefer the kind of the hover for the virtual desktops, especially because I feel like it just looks a lot better than kind of just clicking on it. And it basically does everything it does if you were to click on it also. So it does seem weird that Microsoft even has the option to click on it, as it does look a lot better with just the hover kind of click. Well, not a click, it's just you're hovering on it. But it does do everything you'd want it to do. So I feel like Microsoft should just get rid of the click and just have the hover menu pop up. Continuing on over there, from there, basically you just have the rest of the taskbar, which looks quite similar, but you also have the widgets, which is now working. And in the past it was just news, but now you also have widgets that you can also get quick access to if you want to use them. And you can also add more widgets if you'd like to do so. I don't really like the news that Microsoft is kind of offering there, as for the most part, it's been like news that I don't really care about. And even if you try to fine tune it, it doesn't really work that well. And there's also a search bar here. It doesn't make sense why Microsoft has added this. I hope they do end up removing this. It's kind of weird that they've added a search bar basically in everywhere. They try to add a search bar almost everywhere, and it searches with Bing, which is kind of annoying. Also, when you right click on apps, it has kind of a newer menu, which just looks a lot better. The kind of drop down menu, kind of for when you have your apps that are running in the background, looks a lot better. And when you hover over applications and kind of like the text that comes up on the top, looks also a lot better, and it's much more kind of smooth, and it just works a lot better in my opinion. Continuing on, the Action Center has kind of been split up into two types of menus. So you have your calendar and notifications on the right hand side, and to the left of that, you basically have access to kind of just it's kind of like the Quick Center, just all of your like quick toggles and stuff for stuff like internet, sound, Bluetooth, and just other random things that you might want to add or remove. So there is also the sound, and you'll also be able to hear kind of the new sounds that have been added to Windows 11. Continuing on from there, in the bottom you'll see that there's kind of like this edit button. With that you can actually go ahead and add more or less kind of little, they're not really widgets, but they're just kind of options that if you want to add other stuff, more control in the new action center, that's what I'll call it. So you can add more of those if you'd like to do so. And there's also an option to open settings right from there, and you can see this is the new settings. It looks a lot better, it's much more modern, and from my use it's a lot easier to navigate. I wouldn't say it's significantly easier, as a lot of stuff is smaller, but I think it's a lot easier to navigate, especially if you're trying to help somebody else with trying to use settings. It's really easy to kind of tell them where to go, as it tells you directly where you are on the top. So if you're deep into somewhere in the settings, it'll tell you kind of where you came from, so you easily know that and you can remember that for the future. The Bluetooth and devices section has gotten a fairly significant revamp. It looks a lot better. Some of the icons are kind of messed up. So I have my phone connected via Bluetooth using Your Phone app on Windows 10, and it kind of is showing just a older style of phone, which did look a little bit weird, but this does look better. Obviously, this is a developer version. It is a very pre-release version of Windows 11, as Windows 11 is being released later this year, so you will expect to see some bugs and glitches that maybe you don't want to see, and hopefully they will be fixed later on, as kind of just Windows insiders tell Microsoft about any glitches and bugs that are present. You can see the new personalization settings, which do look really cool, And I think it's great to see that Microsoft just really made these settings just look a lot better. These settings app just looks a lot better, and it's really just great. You can also move the basically all your taskbars, whatever you have on your taskbar, to the left hand side if you'd like to do so. But I kind of prefer it to be in the middle if I'm being honest. But some people who may not like change will be really happy to know that you can put it on the left, and it does work fairly well. Now, searching inside of settings has been slow in the past sometimes, and it does seem like it's a little slow and somewhat glitchy, but it does seem like that Microsoft could really easily fix this, as for the most part, from what I noticed, is that when I search for something and then click on the task, kind of the search bar again, then it'll come up right away. So it seems like it's just a little other bug that Microsoft has inside of Windows 11 currently. Continuing on, you have more personalization settings with the taskbar. So inside of Windows 10, and I think even prior versions of Windows, in the bottom right corner, you've always been able to kind of click in the bottom right, and it'll just take you right to the desktop. Now there isn't really anything you can see there unless you hover your mouse there, then you will see something, but you can actually disable that if you'd like to do so. But it's nice that it's just kind of simple and kind of just a way for people who want to use it, as a lot of people don't really use that feature. Then you also have Windows Update, which for the most part is fairly similar, but does have again, a visual revamp, which you'll see in a lot of places. Everything just looks a lot better, which is really great. And Windows 11 for the most part is really kind of just a UI UX change. There isn't really much changes underneath as that we know of right now. There are a few things, but most of it is definitely just UI, which I think is still great, as Windows 10 hasn't had the kind of the best design as kind of other softwares do now, such as even some versions of Linux and macOS. So it does seem great that Microsoft is looking to kind of create a better looking version of Windows. Continuing on, they've also made it super easy to kind of change your graphics preference. So if you're using a laptop with multiple graphics cards, it should be a lot easier to edit kind of which apps are using which graphics card. And in the background, you can see them just kind of just showing the kind of, so when you right click on your desktop, there's kind of new menus and stuff that will pop up first, and you can actually get it to show kind of a older style one just with rounded corners. Microsoft has also added a new file explorer that just looks, for the most part, similar, just with more rounded corners. And if you haven't been using Windows Insider, you'll also be able to see that there's new icons, but many people who are using Windows Insider have already had this. On the top bar has kind of been changed to, and it looks a lot better than it did in the past, but it might have some things that are missing. I don't really use the top bar that much, so I don't really know what is missing, but it does seem like there might be a few things that might be missing. So it does seem like Microsoft does want to make it look better, but hopefully there isn't too much removed for power users who do want to actually be able to use everything there. But for the most part, most of the stuff is very easy to access there. And I think for people who just want basically File Explorer to do what they want it to do, it should be a lot easier for those people. You can just really easily kind of change the view and kind of just what you're seeing, and it's really easy to kind of just use File Explorer now. And I think it does look a lot better and just flows really well with the rest of the OS. A lot of people have been requesting for tabs inside of File Explorer. File Explorer still hasn't gotten tabs. I think it might be something we might see closer to the release of Windows 11, because a lot of people are really asking for it, but it just isn't something that's available currently. You also have kind of, you can disable kind of what it just shows, so you can get rid of kind of the navigation pane, and that's kind of stuff that you just used to be able to do in the past, but it just is in a much more modern look, and it just flows kind of with the rest of Windows, and the design just kind of matches up with what Microsoft is trying to make Windows 11 look like. So most of your stuff is there, but continuing on, you also have the new Microsoft Store, and the new Microsoft Store, it doesn't actually have one of the features that Microsoft had been talking about, which is the ability to use Android apps on Windows 11. That isn't here yet, but that'll probably be here in a few months, or maybe even less, I'm not really sure. But the new Microsoft Store does look a lot better, and for the most part it seems similar right now, but it does look better. But obviously I think changes are going to be present in the future, and we are going to be seeing more additions and more stuff just added to Windows 11 in the near future, as kind of just Microsoft works to kind of making the insider preview better and listening to feedback to make a great experience for people who are installing Windows 11 when the official release version is out. That's it for today's video. If you liked today's video on Windows 11 and wanted to learn more about Windows 11, please be sure to subscribe. But yeah, that's it for today's video on the first version of Windows 11.